Joining me now in a CNBC exclusive is Federal Communications Commission Chairman Brendan Carr. Chair Carr, welcome. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to be with you. Thanks.
So this Amazon Global Star deal, you have to approve this, right?
Yeah, this will come before the FCC. Look, President Trump has been clear that he's restoring U.S. leadership in technology and connectivity. And one of the interesting new trends we're seeing is this move to what we call direct-to-cell technology, where you can go straight from a satellite right to your smartphone. And we see Starlink moving into this space with a deal that they have pending before the FCC. And now this Amazon deal, which will come before the FCC as well, could potentially set them up to be another competitor in that new and emerging space.
So you like this?
Yeah, we're very open-minded to it. Ultimately, we'll have to take a look at the paperwork and see, but it's consistent with the long-term vision that we have to make sure that the U.S. leads in this next-gen era of direct-to-cell technologies.
I was going to say, what does that do to the competitive landscape for an AT&T or a Verizon or a T-Mobile? Does that factor into your consideration?
Yeah, there's a debate out there right now about whether, from an analyst perspective, are they going to be a competitor to traditional mobile? Are they going to be a complement? Right now they're a complement, and we'll see how the technology evolves. But from my perspective, it's all about the consumer, and the consumer here is a big, big winner. We're seeing a lot of new competitive pressure in the connectivity space. In fact, cell phone prices are down, I think, almost 6% year over year. Broadband prices are down between 7 and 9%, depending on the study that you look at. And so President Trump is really helping to unleash more competition, which, again, is driving down prices.
Did they come to you? Did this deal surprise you? Or did you know Amazon was going to make a move here?
Was that a surprise to us? I mean, ultimately, what we want to see, hopefully, is we can get 3 facilities-based competitors in this direct-to-cell market. I mean, we have 3 facilities-based providers in traditional mobile wireless space right now with AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. And we potentially are going to have a 3-player market, if not more.
Starlink, Amazon, or SpaceX, Amazon.
SpaceX, Amazon, AST, Space Mobile is out there as well. There'll be other players, too. But we think having a healthy 3-player direct-to-cell market could be really good for the country and our leadership.
Speaking of Starlink, I know you've been looking at this basically application to build data centers in space. And there are questions about whether there's favoritism for a Starlink and an Elon Musk because they're going about this. So it's interesting to hear you say you want more competition here.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're all gas, no brakes when it comes to the space economy as a general matter. We've been moving much faster at the FCC across the board on Starlink, on SpaceX, on Amazon as well. We're processing some of their requests. And so our entire Space Bureau is moving full steam ahead. We think U.S. leadership in the space economy as a general matter is a very good thing. So we're going faster on applications, more spectrum out there, supporting launches. I think it's really good for the country.
What about data centers in space? Is that something real?
Yeah, we're open to that. Starlink has come in with a request for up to 1 million satellites to do it. Again, we're ultimately not the arbiter of what technology succeeds or not, but we shouldn't be the constraint either. So we've directed the staff to move quickly on all of these different applications. And it's not just Starlink. There's other companies with orbital data center requests at the FCC, and we'll be moving quickly on all of them.
You've also been really focused on drones, which I wanted to ask you about. You had a recent trip to Anduril, for instance. What is the FCC's role in regulating drone technology and making sure the U.S. is number one? Yeah,
President Trump wants to make sure the U.S. leads the way in drone technology. He's had a number of executive orders to make sure the U.S. leads. Our role is a couple-fold. One is spectrum, making sure that the drones have access to the spectrum necessary. 2, they end up having to file applications with the FCC for use of spectrum, and we're going much faster in processing those applications. In fact, we have a public notice out right now to see what more can the U.S. do to support domestic, America-led drone manufacturing. And we manage something called the covered list, where we've recently prohibited foreign-produced drones from being marketed or sold and used in the U.S. So significant role for the FCC
domestic.
here.
Yeah, we're looking at this footage from you, I think, at Anduril. Do we lead in drones?
Yeah, we're in great shape right now. Anduril and others are leading the way. Really interesting technologies, both drone and counter-drone. And we want to make sure that the government is moving super fast in this area, and that's what we're doing.
Okay, so we've got a lot to ground to cover because you're regulating and moving in a lot of different areas. But one of the juiciest and most controversial is around the media space as well. And I think the most recent one there is that you have threatened with the coverage of the war in Iran that broadcasters could lose their licenses. Are you taking any action here?
Well, broadcasters are different than cable, than podcasts, and someone on the soapbox. They have a license. They've been given free access to a valuable public resource, spectrum. Congress, the president, the courts all recognize that broadcasters are different because they have this public interest obligation.
No, this has been your thing. But I think you've used this sort of authority differently in terms of promoting coverage that you want to see.
Well,
is that fair?
Well, I mean, licenses aren't sacred cows, and there's certainly conduct that broadcasters can engage in, and maybe they have, that will result in them losing their licenses. So if they're not operating in the public interest, if they're running news distortions or broadcast hoax, we'll take a look at it on a case-by-case basis. But some people think that as a broadcaster, they can do anything, engage in any conduct, and never have any consequences from the FCC. Maybe that was the case for 20 years or so, but I think we're going to be clear here as these licenses potentially come up that that's not the case anymore.
I was going to say, because you've threatened this and you've launched some investigations, but we haven't seen any action yet. Is that coming?
We have a number of enforcement actions that are underway right now. No news to break, but obviously, we've talked publicly before about how we have an investigation going on right now on The View, one of the Disney products. We're taking a hard look at that. There may be other licenses issues that come up in the near term. And in general, we're looking at a lot of things. For instance, conflict of interest. A lot of people don't know this, but there's a conflict of interest rules that apply to broadcasters, both personal financial, but also personal political. And again, I think people could probably argue over the last 20 years, the FCC has never enforced its conflict of interest rules where either reporters or others might have a conflicting private
where they've given
political
money, you mean, to parties?
Could potentially be given money. It could be more about fundraising as well. It could be active involvement in political campaigns, and we're going to be looking at those issues at the agency too.
So this is what you're doing now? You're looking into what, anchors and reporters, political history?
Well, there's a long-standing FCC rule on conflict of interest. So if you have a personal financial conflict of interest, you're supposed to disclose it. The FCC has same rules on personal political conflicts, and it's applied in cases where someone has worked for a campaign, where someone has announced their own candidacy. But again, these are all ultimately flowing from the broader public interest standard, and we're going to be enforcing the public interest regulations.
Meaning what? Fines? Penalties? What are we looking at?
Well, hopefully that there's compliance with those rules in the first place. The conflict of interest rules, for instance, talk about disclosure. So it's about more speech, not less. It's not prohibiting anybody from being a broadcaster or reporter, but if you're personally involved, either financially in a product or potentially sufficiently in the political space as well, that may be something you need to disclose to viewers.
You've also brought up equal time, and I know we have the midterm elections coming up, and I wonder how vigilant you're going to be in terms of enforcing those kind of rules. I think that's what you're looking into The View for, right?
Yeah, there's a rule on the books that Congress passed that said that if you are a broadcaster, you have to give equal opportunity to all legally qualified candidates. Again, I think people assume the FCC was never going to enforce that again, and we've made it clear that no, that rule is on the books. We're going to enforce it, and we're looking at it now that we're actively in another election season.
Yeah, I think the late night shows got the memo. The critics of yours would say you're trying to chill free speech and also chill any negative reporting and criticism of this administration.
Well, ultimately, it's about more speech, not less. So again, political equal opportunity means that you get more candidates potentially on, more airtime, more speech, more views. The same thing with the conflict of interest principle, which is about disclosure and telling people more. So people are free to say anything they want. And if people don't like complying with the public interest obligations that come with a license, they're free to switch over to cable or streaming or YouTube TV. So right now, there's lots of ways to get your message out there if you don't want to comply with the unique rules that apply in the broadcast medium.
Meantime, it's been a bit of a challenging period for the industry. We've seen big mergers. The latest, of course, the Paramount Warner Brothers deal. Are you involved in this because it does involve Paramount's ownership of licenses of CBS, which I know you were involved in the Skydance deal, but what about Warner?
We'll probably have a minor, if any, role involved with the most recent Paramount deal. There may be some issues with investment of foreign debt that we would look at and potentially clear that issue if it comes up at the FCC. We would take a look at it. But that would be the only role for the FCC is potentially looking at some of the foreign investment.
How has it been going? Because you did attach some interesting new conditions around, I don't remember what you called it, news diversity,
yeah.
Right? When it comes to Paramount, and we're planning to monitor that.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, something has to change in the broadcast medium. When you look at legacy news media, trust is at an absolute low. I think only 9% of Americans have a great deal of trust in legacy media. So whether it's changing because of FCC public interest standards or just as a business matter, I think something needs to change. But yes, we did impose some conditions there, including around an ombudsman to help monitor some of the activities that they're engaged in. And I'm pleased with some of the changes we're seeing at CBS. I mean, nothing's going to be exactly the way I personally would want it, and that's fine. But I do think they're trying something different, which, again, when you're stuck in this pack of other legacy broadcasters just declining trust, I think you should try something different. Maybe it works long term, maybe it doesn't. It's not for me to decide. But I'm glad that they're doing something different, at least around the edges. Speaking
of, you sent a bit of a chill through the NFL when you made recent comments about the NFL just going increasingly into streaming. And I know this is Department of Justice potential investigation here into antitrust, but what is concerning to you right now there?
I think long term, there's been a great partnership between broadcasters and sports league. It's helped them to grow their fan base, and Americans have enjoyed sitting down after the day, turning on TV, and very quickly, and usually for free, finding their favorite team playing. And that experience has become frustrating for lots of Americans over the years. They feel like they're paying more out of pocket. They're having to sign up for different streaming services. So we're looking at this at the FCC from the perspective of the health of the local broadcast market. We want to make sure that there continues to be the ability for local broadcasters to invest in local news and reporting, which is expensive. And so they're paying too much ultimately for NFL rights or other sports rights. That's a problem. There's been reports that DOJ is looking at this from an antitrust perspective. There is a Sports Broadcasting Act, which gives NFL and others a unique antitrust exemption. There's a question of whether are they extending beyond the scope of that antitrust exemption if they move too many games behind a paywall.
Or is ultimately what you're trying to do here is influence the next round of negotiations and give more preference to broadcast?
I don't know about that, but I do think there's a point at which the NFL reaches a tipping point where they're sticking too many games behind a paywall, in which case it really raises a lot of questions about the scope of that.
But what could you
exception.
do at the FCC?
Well, one, we're proceeding right now, so we're taking comment, we're looking at it. DOJ and Congress could also look at the antitrust exemption, but we want to be informed about this since we ultimately do regulate the local broadcast TV market. So we're going to look at it, and potentially we could inform Congress or DOJ as well.
All right, well, we got through a lot there. You've got a lot going on your plate. Thank you for giving us some of the updates on some of the key issues. As the president calls you the most powerful man in the room. Brendan Carr, the chair of the FCC, Mike, on that NFL one, a big one. I mean, possibly, could upend their entire business model, which is the collective bargaining of rights for media.